Kingdom Come Deliverance officially revealed, or the sequel to it rather, officially revealed. This has been a long time coming. I've been waiting very patiently. And I actually heard rumblings a while back that they were going to reveal it last year. That obviously didn't happen. So I don't know if like they've taken extra time to polish. I don't know if that was just mistaken, but I've been like eagerly awaiting at every game show, at every little event that they've put on, hoping that they would reveal something. I remember even like Gamescom back in August. I think that's when Gamescom is. I had developers at Warhorse Studios asking me if I was coming because they wanted to show me something. And that got me all giddy and I wasn't able to go, which ticked me off. But these guys are very passionate, as you're going to see as we go through this. They are very excited to share what they've been working on. And it just gets me hyped. It gets me really, really pumped. And I mean, you're going to see just as they describe it, this is not your standard like corporate reveal of a game where they all stand with their hands for some reason like this, because that's what corporate people do. And then they just kind of talk about all the features coming to this big game. No, they're like giddy and they cannot wait to explain what they've been working on. And I love it. I am so excited. Furthermore, these guys have actually gone to the lengths of like retweeting and sharing around like reviews and critiques of their game. So for example, I did a pretty hefty critique of the original Kingdom Come Deliverance game. And I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but I was hard at parts. I was like, it's a clunky mess at times, but it still has some magic there. Like it still is a really, really solid game that's just fun and satisfying and extremely immersive. It's just got a lot of rough edges. And they took that review that was relatively mixed and they shared it on all of their social media. And they were like, yep, he's got some tough things to say, but we think he's right and we appreciate him talking about the game and we can't wait till he sees what we're working on next. And I think that that's the perfect attitude to have. The fact that they are not just aware of the critiques, but they're actively like sharing them, acknowledging that they've heard it. I was told that people within the studio actually watched the critique that I put together. I don't know if that means one person or if that means that multiple people saw it, but either way, it says that they are engaging with critical feedback actively, which is all you should really hope for from a studio, that they will listen to the negatives of their previous games and work to improve them. Contrasted with other, Vavra himself commented on your video. Exactly. So like a lot of studios will just pretend like nothing's wrong or that everything's hunky-dory, and if you didn't like it, that's your problem. And that's been kind of, Jack, that's been kind of my frustration, is that some very notable studios that have severe issues. I mean, even something like Rocksteady with Suicide Squad, their community is imploding and is begging for like fixes and bug patches and all sorts of stuff. And they just pretend like everything is totally fine. They don't acknowledge any of the critical reception at all. And that's not how you make a better game. It's not. The best way to do it is like Hello Games, where after the initial launch of No Man's Sky, they were like, okay, people got problems with us and with our game, rightly so. Let's work our asses off and make it better. And so they made a spreadsheet, they collected all the information on what went wrong and what they could improve and what features people wanted to see, and they started working on it. And that's what you love to see. And that's the difference, I think, between a big corporate operation where they're just trying to pump out a product versus a studio of people truly passionate that want to make the best game possible and want to engage with their communities to figure out how to make it better. Yeah, take a shot every time I mention Suicide Squad. Yeah, you're going to be plastered by the end of the stream. Anyway, let's see what it is. This is a momentous occasion. Here we go.
18.
Peggy 18.
When it seems you're out of luck, there's just one man who gives a fuck. a friend who'll never leave you stuck. Now who can that friend be? Henry, our hero Henry.
It's been a while, but now we can finally show you Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
It breaks my brain every time I see him in person because it's his actual face scan in the game, and like his voice is very unique. And so to hear him and see him in real life, I'm like, I weirdly, this gives me more Uncanny Valley than the video game version of him. But he's actually back. He's back.
I always dreamt of leaving this place. Becoming more than a peasant.
I'm buckled in.
You know the trouble with an adventurous life? It can end before it gets started.
Congratulations, Sir Knight. You finally become a man.
Wake up! Pull yourself together, Henry.
Nobody will hand anything on a platter to men like you and me.
You still have a long way to go till your work is done.
O merciful God, be kind and protect us so we don't blow our arses off. Amen.
Pretty Gucci, right? A couple of the key things that immediately stand out. Crossbows for one, some like musket type weaponry as well. Much more fluid combat, it seems, just from what they showed with the hand axe and things. I mean, the elephant in the room with all of this, which is, I see some people bring it up in chat, which is absolutely fair and I think is important to remember. Kingdom Come Deliverance, the original, is often described as rough around the edges, clunky, it's got these problems. One of the problems it's had, and it still sort of has, is that it doesn't run super well. It is extremely heavy to run. It requires like kind of a supercomputer to operate at high resolutions at decent frame rates. Even on console, you'll get frame dips all the time. In combat, you'll get frame dips. And they've worked hard on patches and stuff, and it runs a hell of a lot better today than it did back when it launched. But it's absolutely worth wondering how this is going to run when it launches, because I guarantee you this is not going to be one of those native 4K 60 FPS games. This is probably going to be at 30 on console. This is probably going to struggle to do higher than 60 on PC, even with like really high-end computers, because most of it's probably CPU bound. There's things like that. And I think one of the broader, I guess, topics maybe that's going on in the gaming industry right now is where people are going to demand games perform in order to justify certain price points. And already right now, there's kind of a butting of heads. It like really reared its head towards the end of last year with Starfield when people found out that was going to be running at 30 frames. People were like, that's unacceptable. That's ridiculous. Other games have come along that are saying 30. It looks like Red Dead 2 is, or not Red Dead. It looks like GTA 6 is going to be running at 30. And a lot of people have come to the conclusion that a modern game at $70 should run higher than 30 frames. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that just say, I don't really care if it runs at 30, it better be locked at 30 and it better look gorgeous. Otherwise, it's more about the game. And I think that there's, you know, both sides have valid points, and it's often about preference and taste. I mean, I personally, it depends on the type of game, but I personally don't care that much if a game is at 30 as long as it is visually stunning. Like if I'm playing a Red Dead 2, I can enjoy that game at 30 frames. I don't need it at 60. 60 is great, but I don't need it at 60 to enjoy it. It's why when that game launched, it was rated so amazingly highly, even though it was running at 30 on consoles and everything. And most of the best games of all time have launched at 30 frames. So clearly you don't need it running at 60 to be a great game. The argument some people would make is that the standard should change. We're in 2024 now. Games are more expensive to us. So the games should run better and should be refined to the point of getting to 60 frames. But that's more, I think, a point of personal preference. I personally prefer, outside of first-person shooters, I prefer higher fidelity, often on console games, to frame rate, because when we prioritize frame rate, we end up getting games that just kind of look bleh, but run at 60. And I just personally would rather the higher fidelity. But I don't think it's necessarily a matter of like one side being right or wrong. I think it's just a matter of preference. But what's driven me crazy over the last like year or so is that we'll have games that might be really, really good. We'll have games that have a ton of potential or whatever, but people get caught up on the frame rate issue. And it's like with Starfield, there's a lot of reasons to not love Starfield and there's a lot of reasons to love Starfield, but getting hung up on the frame rate is one of the stupidest things you could do, because that's just a technical issue. It's more about the game's design. That's what you should be talking about. And all of this to say, I think that for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it's going to be heavy. It's not going to run great. It's going to be clunky. And as long as everybody knows that going in, I can't be that upset. It's more about being transparent with it. But you should not expect this to be like a Ghost of Tsushima, looks beautiful and runs at 60 type game. Hear me out. Let's meet in the middle and make the minimum 45. Hey, if we can all agree on that. Can we all agree? Can we all settle on that? Everybody get together and agree? Oh, that's a good point, Emeraldo. I think the reason it'll explode is because of the way they use FSR2 to brute force 60. I think you are right. There's been an over-reliance recently. Probably the worst offender was Star Wars Jedi Survivor, if you guys played that at launch. That game, it looked like somebody had a handful of bacon grease and just smeared it over your display. Like, it was so blurry, so distorted around edges and stuff. It was terrible. It was one of the worst implementations of it I've seen on a AAA release. It was laughable. And it was such a shame because the game was really good, but it just was put in this crap package and it was just really heartbreaking. But yeah, even now Jedi Survivor runs at like 960p on performance mode. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, part of it I think is the over-reliance and the push for ray tracing stuff, because until like a month after launch, I'm pretty sure Jedi Survivor had ray tracing even on the console versions. It might still have it. I don't know. Yeah, screen tearing, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, 960p, insane what the hell. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're in 2024 and we're having games that render at sub 1080p, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I understand we're doing crazy ray tracing stuff, but on console, the effect is negligible, I think, compared to traditional methods. I just don't think it's worth it. It drives me crazy. I think ray tracing, if you have a $5,000 PC, can make games look insane, like with Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. But if you don't have this and you're running with like a console or a lower tier PC, it's just gonna make the game run terribly, and it's not gonna look that much better because ray tracing on lower settings isn't that much better than just like baked shadows and stuff. So I maybe hot take as well. I don't think ray tracing has done that much for the industry. I think it's been an unfortunate distraction, and it's a real shame because it's given companies the excuse to use DLSS and FSR and XLSS, I think is the other one. It's given them the excuse to rely on those things to upscale and hit frame rate targets and resolution targets when the game just isn't capable of doing it.
Hello and welcome. My name's Tom McKay, and together with Luke Dale, we're here to present the first in-depth look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, an action RPG set in a realistic world of the late Middle Ages.
We're in Kuttenberg, a gorgeous city at the heart of Europe, but also at the heart of KCD2. So let's take you into the world of the game with the help of Warhorse.
Love it. I also can't decide if I love or hate his coat. It looks like frayed, and the sleeves are also off. I don't know. I think I like the cut of this coat more. This is the high quality commentary you get when you come to a Luke Stevens stream. Random pauses for comments on coats.
The creators of this medieval saga.
It's almost exactly 10 years since I was doing a video like this, introducing our new game. It's almost exactly 6 years since this game called Kingdom Come Deliverance was finally released. So now it's perfect opportunity to show you what we have been working on those 6 years, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And where else to do it than in this magnificent cathedral in this royal city of Kuttenberg, where majority of this game takes place.
I love that they did this. I saw one guy comment and he was like, wow, Satanism is real, friends and folks. They are actually renting out churches and cathedrals, the holy places, in order to sell video games that celebrate violence to people. And I was like, bro, they rented out a cathedral and they did an event in it. Like, yeah, it's just cool. I don't know. The guy was probably trolling. But the fact that I can't tell if he's trolling or not, I think says a lot, because it's unfortunately something I grew up around. Was people like the people I grew up around would have been livid that they did this. They would have thought that this was like blasphemous.
Back then, 10 years ago, at the beginning, it was only 11 of us in a small office. Now it's 250 people.
Yeah, so this is where I think people got confused, this line.
It's only 11 of us in a small office.
That's where it started. It didn't end up like that. They hired a lot more people and they grew as development went on, but it started there. And people heard this and were like, wow, so only 11 people put it together? No, not really. It started there, but that's, like I said earlier, it's like saying that the people that do pre-production are the people that put the whole game together. Like the people that do pre-production on a game like GTA 6 might be 50 people, like figuring out what they want the story to be and where it's going to be set and what the design document is going to look like and all that. But it eventually grows to be like 6,000 people that work on it. But you wouldn't say that 50 people made GTA 6, right? It's just, I think it's just a slight, it's how he phrased it. It sounds like he's saying 11 people made it when he's like, well, that's how it started. And then we grew to a bigger team, you know? So it's just a kind of sloppy phrase.
Now it's 250 people working very hard for years to bring you the ultimate medieval RPG adventure.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 follows the adventures of Henry, a young lad who barely survives the invasion of a raiding force on his village. Henry embarks on a quest of revenge against those who butchered his family and burned his home to the ground.
As a trusted squire and friend to young Sir Hans, our hero Henry is sent on a simple mission, but things turn ugly very soon.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a continuation of Henry's previous adventures, but the story's written in such a way that it's perfect for newcomers to Henry's journey.
Henry is a character that I think everybody can identify with because...
I mean, the density of foliage is crazy. So if you're not familiar, Kingdom Come Deliverance is put together on the CryEngine. And the CryEngine is this sort of like Frankenstein's monster type of engine. It's at this point what they're using is a very, very customized version of it, but it's pretty old school. It's not something you're going to be able to just like go out and use it. Most people wouldn't start developing games on it today, but they've done some work on it and it seems like they've really cranked the dials and stuff. because the original Kingdom Come had, like, it wasn't a bad looking game, but it had moments where you're like, okay, that's a little weird. Specifically, like some of the NPCs might look a little off, but the environments were always pretty strong. And then this, I mean, the density of grass and flowers is just ridiculous. It's crazy. Yeah, they said they changed it so much now it's not even standard CryEngine anymore. Yeah, I mean, you can tell just by looking at this. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Was he starts off as a kind of nobody and goes through life with all these immense challenges. And I feel like everybody can relate to that.
Hans is all the kind of fun times and all the kind of ebullience and joy that Henry has in himself, but it takes a bit of accessing, and I think Hans really helps him to do that.
Whew. You were right about our stench.
Let's hope this water isn't too cold. You wouldn't want your pride and joy shrinking.
I'm more worried about it being too deep.
Come on.
What we are making now is what it was supposed to be in the beginning, but we were not able to do it because we didn't have enough resources and experience and all that stuff. We've proven that the concept works, and now we can take it to another level, which we always wanted.
That gets me excited to hear that the team is pumped that they can now do what they wanted to do in the first place. That's exactly what you would hope for, is that they have the money and resources now.
The game is much bigger in scope. Original game we had, I don't know, 3 hours of cutscenes. Now we have more than 5. Regarding the size of the world, it's 2 times bigger than it was. The story is longer and much more epic. So previously it was about an issues of small nobility with bandits in their villages. Now it's about problems of kings.
This is a behemoth of a game in comparison to the first, in my opinion. I think it's got so much more energy and pace and adventure and
like, these sequences look really good, because one of the things that the original game would struggle with were wide open spaces where you had a really far line of sight with high level of detail, where basically you would end up with like a circle around the player that was out by like 50 feet, where the grass would just stop spawning. And so as you walk through the world, you would see it spawn in. And with this, it seems like they've done a good job of making it a slower gradient. So the flowers and the really high density vegetation stop maybe like 30 meters out, maybe even like 20 meters out. And then out here, there's less of them, if any. And then past this barrier over here is where it drops to like the lowest poly grass. And it's the far, and the far distance version of the foliage, but it works really well. And with all of this stuff, like, you have to remember, it's like we've said with many games, studios are always going to show you the best that they have. So they're not going to intentionally show you like problematic footage or footage where the game doesn't look its best. When they're announcing the game and showing it, they're going to show it in its best form, which you would expect, you know, you would absolutely expect. But like, that being said, if you compare what they were able to show of the first game to what they're able to show here, it's clear that major improvements have been made at the very least. The final launch version is probably not going to look like this on console, for example. The console version, probably much lower detail, probably much less post-processing effects with less motion blur, less depth of field and stuff, if any. So I would not expect console versions to look like this. This seems like a high-end PC version, but with that understanding, it still looks really good.
action and fun and trial and tribulation and just everything that you could want from setting up the characters. So
The other thing I've noticed is that there's a lot more NPCs on screen at a time.
And trial and tribulation and just
like, just look at this. There's a good number. While the foliage is really high, the lighting with the God rays is really high. They've done they've actually managed to be able to put a dozen people on screen pretty comfortably at any given moment, which will make for some epic moments.
everything that you could want from setting up the characters so beautifully in the first game and then throwing them out there and going, right, let's see what you're made of. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, the city has a few hundred. Yeah, I mean, in the first game, there were areas of higher density that you would get to, but they were usually in like pretty tight corridors and stuff, and they were segmented into rooms and separated away so they could load them in separately. But you didn't tend to see huge crowds together. Whereas in this game, it seems like, especially in combat, they've managed to put more people together on screen. At least it's been a minute since I played the game, so maybe the original also had pretty high density, but I don't recall it being this high.
Henry is a young guy, so he's not really like so deeply entrenched in his already, set character traits. So you can build your Henry in a different ways.
And that all means that it's actually on you who you want to be. You can save the world, or you can help to punish it for its sins. Combat is also historically accurate, but we don't want to do that for the historical reasons of something. We want to do that for the immersion, and we want you to feel the sword in your hand. We want you to feel threatened by the enemies on the battlefield. We want you to fight for your life.
As far as missile weapons go, we added new type of weapon. We added crossbows. Also, some early firearms.
Kingdom Come feels like the good old school RPGs. It will always surprise you what you can and cannot do.
You can be better in combat. You can be a sweet talking guy who talks his way out of problems. You can be a charming knight. You can be a thief, a scoundrel. Anything you do will be recorded. People will remember it. If they saw you do that, our crime system will react to that.
For example, when you are, drunk and naked, people comment on that on the street, and now you can also reply. You can tell them, oh, I'm sorry, or you can tell them, piss off, man.
If you do a lot of criminal stuff around the village, people will start to be suspicious, they will greet you differently. So try to make these little things collapse into like greater mosaic where your actions are really reflected.
And I can appreciate that. I will say, like, most of this stuff just ends up being sort of a social score that you get, or a reputation score. So certain cities or villages will just rank you as a hero, a commoner, a scoundrel, and a villain. And so then it's just based on how it ranks you. They have set dialogue for how they greet you. They might charge you different prices. The guard's tolerance for your mischievous activities might go up or down. So it sounds really amazing and dynamic, when in reality it's something that a lot of games have had for a very, very long time. But it's still cool to see. It's still cool to see. But yeah, it's like notoriety in AC2, or it's like the sort of like faction system in New Vegas, where certain like cities will, it told you like on the map in parentheses what they thought of you, and they would treat you differently, or they'd be immediately hostile to you if you arrived there after killing people. So all sorts of stuff like that. Can I tell them to piss off by actually peeing? That is a phenomenal question. That's a phenomenal question. Yeah. Yeah. Or they ask you to leave, whatever it is. Yeah, there's lots of options. So it's not that novel of a concept. And it's not just these guys. I mean, every big studio talks like this. Like Todd Howard back in 2006, when he was selling Oblivion to people, he was saying how they had that new Radiant AI system. And he's like, yeah, and then the NPCs will actually respond differently if you steal something from them or do this or that. And then you look at it and it's like, oh, it's just, they rank you in a few different ways. And then if you don't get it, like, if you're at this rank, they have this dialogue that they can throw at you, and that's it.
Always surprise you what can be done in Kingdom Come.
Hold on, I want to read the thing. Thistle is a miraculous medicine against various ailments and plague, especially in water. It gives relief from pain and poisoning, and in ale it restores the appetite. In wine it sulls a man's wits and should not be thus imbibed. It grows in roadside ditches. Wow. Dulls I thought it was an S. It's a D. Dulls a man's wits and should not be thus imbibed. It grows in roadside ditches, in clearings, and where there is relief from the sun and rather shadow gathers. Adds stamina, reduces speed. Interesting. So like they have this like probably books and stuff where you can find information on different things they'll use. I like that.
We are moving to different places, so one map is taking place on the actual place that's called Bohemian Paradise. And it's really beautiful nature with quite unusual rocky formations all around. And then we are moving to totally different, rather urban countryside surrounding huge silver mining, very rich city. So there's this big city.
The Gutenberg is a huge step forward for us, and it was, I would say, biggest challenge in the game. Because from those small outskirts and small cities, you are really getting in the one of the richest cities in the medieval Europe.
And it's really big. It's even too big, in my opinion.
We are trying to go beyond that usual muddy, dirty, medieval world, dark ages where everyone is dying.
The thing I love about medieval cities in games like this is that they just break your brain. It's like, yeah, we have a cliffside here. We'll put a tower on that. And like they build around the nature and like the natural formations much more than they do now. Like nowadays, they just scrape it. They're like, yeah, we'll just blow up that mountainside and we'll just put a shopping center in there. It'll be fine. But back in the day, they had to build around it. So like it's almost like they built the terrain, or like they generated the terrain, and then they built the city to the terrain, which is how it actually would have been. Like you didn't have the option of just clearing off this cliffside. You're like, oh, we'll use that. We'll put a tower on top. That'll be great. You know, I love it.
One is dying from famine and war.
It was really like colorful. Like it wasn't dark at all. We have really beautiful environments. Like players should go and explore all those like little woods and beautiful rocks and castles.
The thing that I love about the game most is just wandering around, because the nature is really beautiful. It's really serene, peaceful, and it's full of secrets.
I love this artwork. I just love it. I love this guy. He's partying, dancing. Love the hat. This guy's having a good time. But you can tell he takes it very seriously. And then this guy, he's about the music. He's not about the performance. Like, yeah, he'll perform, but he's just here to put some good music together. You know, this tells you a lot. This tells you a lot. My screen just went black for some reason. It just, yeah, no signal, it says. It's still on the capture card, but for some reason on my screen, it's completely black. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Everything's falling apart.
Jan Walta is the composer as with the first game, because I think he's awesome, he's genius.
There it is. Now it's back on. Seriously, the music in this game, or these games, I guess now, is very, very, very good. It's not the same bop as like a Fallout game. It's not quite like that, but it fits the vibe. It fits the vibe. You're like, wow, I am holy. Damn, my screen turned off again. What is happening? Is my monitor just breaking?
In this game, you can experience something you cannot experience anywhere else.
I think players will be really impressed by that.
My message to the fans would be you are in for a ride.
Thank you for all your support. Please follow us on our journey to create something unique. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will be released by the end of this year.
See you in KCD2.
By the end of this year. That's crazy. Expected for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. I'm about it though. This is in another, yeah, I'm pretty sure they are an Embracer Group company. Vavro was the guy, I'm pretty sure, that commented on my critique and stuff. So like he's actively looked out for critical feedback and stuff on the game. And he's taken the notes and trying to build on it, which again is all you could possibly hope for. It's like have a game director and executives that take the feedback and are like, okay, interesting, let's build on that, let's figure it out. That's all I really want from game devs, and that seems to be exactly what they're doing, which is awesome. Score predictions on console. I mean, the original game, I don't think reviewed amazingly well, but the people that love it. Yeah, so like on PC, it has like a 76, but based on the feedback and what you've seen, the response is from these people, you would have thought that this is like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 across the board, right? But on these platforms, like it didn't run very well. It had a lot of clunk to it, you know, that there were some issues with it, but it has like a cult following, you know, people that like Kingdom Come love Kingdom Come. I don't know if it's going to necessarily review the best, but I do think that the people that like Kingdom Come are going to love it. In the same way that like all games that have a little bit of like a unique clunkiness to them, they're not necessarily going to click with everybody, but the people that it clicks with are going to love it. And that's the perhaps important bit. He took my thing.